Hi everyone, my name is Orr Merkel, and this is my game prototype assignment for admission into the Florida Interactive Entertainment Academy at UCF. So I'll just give you a brief overview of the game I prototyped. I guess you can consider it an endless runner where the user has three main objectives: avoid the yellow items that are coming at you, collect the blue items for ammo, and attempt to shoot the red items, which in turn will clear the field of all the yellow uh, objects coming towards you, allowing the user to progress further into the game. So as you can see, the game engine I decided to work with was Unity. I chose this mostly because I'm very new to video game design, and I know that the Unity has a huge community supporting the application. So if I ran any issues that I wasn't able to resolve by myself, I would have a place I could go and look and hopefully go through their forums and find some solutions. So I guess the first thing I wanted to highlight was the environment I set up for this game. So it's pretty basic rig as far as video game environments go. It's basically just a camera that's fixed below an object that I applied a simple background to. This really provided me just with a easy platform for gameplay, but it also allowed me to utilize Unity's built-in gravity function. So it saved me from having to apply forces to all these objects you see falling towards me, which probably ended up saving me a lot of time in scripting. Ended up just working out better that way. So after I had this set up, all I really had to do was focus on creating new objects at the point of the background and handling collisions within the game. And this really provided me the foundation that I could build off of. Really let me kind of flex my creativity. Initially, my plan was just to have the user just dodge objects that were coming towards them. There was no collecting items and shooting objects to clear the field. It really this allowed me to add a lot of extra gameplay that I hadn't planned on initially. So I guess the next thing I wanted to focus on was the scripts that I created to handle the gameplay. Basically, within the program, there were four types of scripts I created. Let's see here. So the first type of script I created was the create new object script. So you see, I have three. So I created one of these for each type of object that I had created in the game that is falling towards you. So I have one for the blue object, the yellow object, and the red object. And the idea was I had to have some way of spawning a new item into Unity. That way, I guess, reword this a little bit here. I had to have some way of making the game more difficult as it progressed. So I had to come up with some way of spawning a new object every X seconds and just keep adding to the number of balls that were coming towards the user to make it more difficult. So the way I did that was basically I created these scripts that would create new objects. The way they work is basically every X seconds, it'll call this create new falling object function, which basically it'll then call this function, it'll grab a random position on the respawn point, and then it'll instantiate a new prefab that I created. I have a prefab for each of the three objects that fall. It'll instantiate a new instance of that prefab into the Unity game, and it'll just keep happening every X seconds, thus making more balls, and the user has more balls to avoid, and just it's basic gameplay. So then the next type of script I had to create was the crash script. Basically, the crash scripts are, again, I created three, one for each type of ball that's falling towards you. Basically, whenever the items would come into contact with each other, depending on what hit what, a different type of event would happen. So I'll just go over one of the more complicated ones. This is the crash script for the dark energy ball, which is the red ball. Basically what happens is, okay, and a collision happens, and then it goes and looks for, okay, what type of object did the dark energy ball collide with? If it was a type flare, it's going to reset the user's current energy, which allows the user to shoot to 0, allowing the user not to shoot is like a penalty for collecting a red ball. If the dark energy ball collides with the blue ball, which is tagged as energy in my game, it's going to instantiate this item, which is basically an explosion, using Unity's built-in, I think it's a particle system. It's a real basic particle system I created. I'll show you what it actually does here. Just gotta find one of these red balls. This one. So basically, the particle system, I just shoot it, and it creates this cool explosion. And the next event that happens, so it'll create the explosion, and then what happens when one of the blue balls hits one of the red balls is it basically destroys all the yellow balls currently on the screen, making it easier for the user. So the way I did that was I created an array, which basically how it works. Basically, the way the array works is it create a new game object array. It then calls for Unity to go through the game and search for all game objects tagged with the type of slug. After it finds all those, then it goes through this loop, which basically will go through the array and destroy all the slugs that it found in the previous method call, and then it destroys the ball that initially hit it. The next type of script that I created was the move camera script, which is basically the user interface. This just basically controls how the user interacts in the game. So if the user presses A, it goes left. If the user presses D, it goes right. If the user presses space, the game checks to see if the user has energy. If the user does have energy, it instantiates a new energy prefab within the Unity game at the point of the user and applies a force to it, shooting the object towards the objects that are falling towards you. And then based off whatever object it collides with, another event will happen. Next type of script that I created would be the falling object script. This script basically exists as a way of controlling if the objects fall out of the user's viewpoint, what will happen to the objects. If you didn't have them respawn, then they would just keep falling forever. Basically, this script just says if one of the objects falls below a certain point, then it's going to respawn it at the respawn point on a random point on the x-axis, I believe. What's next? And the last script I have in here is this grid overlay script. I didn't write this whole script myself. I found this online. Basically, the reason why I included this was when I originally created the game, I was having a hard time viewing where the objects were going to land, just because of the way the camera was set up. So I had to find some way of making it a little more user-friendly, and these grid lines ended up making it a little easier for the user to tell where the balls were going to land, and it gave a little more, made the gameplay a little more enjoyable. So I ended up including that. Other than that, I had a few other ideas that I wasn't able to implement in the time that you guys provided us. For instance, I wanted to add force after clearing the screen. That way it gave a little more strategy to the game. If the user cleared the screen too early, then the objects would keep coming faster and faster, making it a little more difficult. So they might want to wait a little longer before clearing the screen. And of course, the visual appearance. I'm pretty new, like I said, to video game design, so I really haven't messed around that much with Photoshop, so I stuck to the basic Unity objects for now. But if I continue to develop this, I definitely want to add some more visual effects to the game. Other than that, that's it for my submission for my game prototypes assignment. Obviously, still have a lot to learn. However, I hope I was able to display some of the attributes and skills you guys are looking for in your applicants, and I hope to work with you guys going forward. Thanks very much.